Hi, this is Larry Huppen. I am the Medical Director of ProLab, and in this video we're going to go over two portions of the ProLab prescription form, the forefoot extension portion and the special additions portion. So let's look at forefoot extensions first. First thing you're going to do is choose the length to toes or to sulcus. Choose to bevel it on device. I'll show you that in a second. And of course, choose right or left. You can choose either Poron, Corex, or EVA for your material. EVA comes in soft and firm. You can choose your thickness, and then down here you can add specific types of accommodations such as slot or punch valgus or varus extensions, Morton's or reverse Morton's extensions. All right, let's look at some of these. Here we have the length of the extensions. These are all to the sulcus, but you could, on this one here, have extended that to the toes. You could have also added to bevel it onto the device. And what that means is instead of ending just distal to the edge of the orthosis, we would start the extension on top of the orthosis, but have it beveled on the proximal side so that there's no drop off at the edge. Particularly for very thick modifications like this one here, that is sometimes helpful. The next thing we'll look at is material. We have Corex, firm EVA, and Poron. Poron is usually used for cushioning. These two are used for accommodation or for transferring pressure from one area to another or providing support such as with a valgus extension. And then we have our thickness choices. Here we have 6 millimeter. Here we have a 3 millimeter. On this side, this is a valgus extension, so it's beveled down medially. And this is another 3 millimeter. You can also have these materials in 1.5 millimeter. Let's go back to the prescription form here. The next thing we'll look at are the different types of apertures. All right, so here we go. This here is a slot aperture. So we've cut out the Poron, and so so you have still Poron under 3 to 5 and under 1. This is a punch aperture for 3 and 4. The third and fourth med heads, and here's another slot aperture for the fourth med head. Now you can have these accommodations or these apertures made of Corex or EVA. Also, I think most patients will find that the slot aperture is more comfortable because the foot can lengthen during weight bearing. Sometimes it's difficult to have a punch aperture that is always at the right portion of the foot to take weight off the painful area. Next, we look at our valgus and varus extensions. Here we have a valgus extension left full thickness laterally, beveled down under the second to very little on the on the medial aspect. So that'll support a valgus forefoot. It's certainly good for conditions such as plantar fasciitis or for lateral ankle instability. I don't have a varus extension here, but it would be the opposite. It would be left full thickness medially and beveled down laterally. Here's a reverse Morton's extension. The only difference between the valgus extension and the reverse Morton's is that the reverse Morton's is the same thickness on 2 through 5, where the valgus extension is beveled, so it's thicker laterally. I don't have a varus extension, I don't have a Morton's extension here, but that would just go under the first. And here we have the Poron, usually used for cushion. If you were going to prescribe a Poron extension for cushioning to go under all of the med heads, what you would do is check off, let's say you wanted to go to the sulcus. Out of Poron, in most cases you would pick 3 millimeter. For dress shoes you might want to pick 1.5 millimeter. Now let's go on to the special additions section. The first thing we'll look at here is an arch pad. So this is an arch pad being added to an orthosis that someone's already been wearing for a while. What we're going to do here is trying to raise the arch. And so we will take this arch pad and slide that under the top cover and increase arch height. So that's really the time you're going to use the arch pad the most if you're trying to increase the arch height. Next we have EVA Arch Fill. EVA Arch Fill can be added to the orthosis. That is the EVA Arch Fill here in purple and black. So we add that under, let's say, a polypropylene orthosis in order to increase the rigidity. Also makes it easy to, all you have to do is grind out a little bit of that EVA and the device becomes more flexible. You can have the EVA in either rigid or firm. This is probably, I'm sorry, I'm not rigid or firm, but medium or firm. Medium is more standard. Firm is very, very rigid, and you might as well just use a rigid polypropylene orthosis in that situation. Next, we have a heel lift. It's pretty simple with about a 3 millimeter heel lift added to this orthosis here. Then we have heel pads and horseshoe pads. I don't have those available, but all that is, a heel pad is simply a piece of Poron put into the heel cup in order to provide additional cushioning. And the horseshoe pad is exactly the same thing, but cut in the shape of a horseshoe. The idea is to take a little more pressure off the most painful area on the bottom, usually the medial tubercle, the calcaneus. I think the heel pad is a much more useful modification. That extra cushioning slows the velocity of foot as it hits and decreases force under that area. I think it's very difficult with a horseshoe pad to ensure that the cutout is in exactly the right position. Next, we have metatarsal pads and metatarsal bars. Hang on one second. Here we go. So here we have the 3 different types of metatarsals. Basically, here we have a Neuroma pad. This is an elongated met pad. The idea is to spread the metatarsal heads apart in order to reduce pressure and force on a painful Morton's neuroma. Here we have a standard, over here on the far right, we have a standard metatarsal pad, teardrop shape. And this is what we call a metatarsal bar. This is a piece of Poron left of a 3 millimeter thickness. It's left full thickness distal, beveled proximally. That helps transfer pressure from the met heads onto the metatarsal neck and shaft region. You will notice that we left the cover unglued on the front half on all 3 of these devices so that it is easy to make adjustments to these pads. We do recommend using an unglued cover on the front half of the orthosis anytime you're using met pads or met bars to make those modifications easier. And finally, the last one on this form here is filler for a toe amputation. I don't have a picture of that, but that's usually pretty self-explanatory. So that is the forefoot extension and special edition portion of the form. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us at ProLab.